objectives of an Injustice for All, Workers' Lives in the Reconstruction, was just to really look at the structural racism of post-Katrina New Orleans and the way that it set these two different populations, which, you know, there is a certain level of overlap, but, you know, for the purposes of the report, if you look at African American survivors post-Hurricane Katrina, they were essentially locked out of the Reconstruction effort. No housing, no access to jobs, no transportation. The infrastructure of the city was basically left in disarray, and in some cases the disarray was created by the government agencies such as HANO and HUD locking down public housing. I mean, that's a very simple way to make sure that you have a certain workforce that isn't able to return home, despite the fact that their homes were not damaged. I mean, that could have been a workforce that could have returned pretty immediately, and was, as of, you know, October 19th of 2005 was the day that I came back to check on my home, and those steel plates that were over the doors and windows of the Lafitte Housing Project were already up. And this was coming from, you know, a city that said that it was just in too much shock and disrepair to be able to do anything for anyone. I mean, that we couldn't even come back to look at our home. So, you know, it's very problematic in terms of the ways that the African American community was very purposefully pushed out of the Reconstruction. And then at the same time, the immigrant labor force was brought in many cases recruited or imported into the Reconstruction effort and locked into exploitative jobs and exploitative situations.
What's going on down in New Orleans is that employers are hiring immigrant workers, working them to the bone, and then threatening to call immigration when the workers demand to be paid the money that they're due, you know, for all of the work that they've performed on behalf of the employer. That's not supposed to happen. There is actually an informal memorandum of understanding between the Immigration Service and the Department of Labor that provides that no one should be removed from this country who has a pending labor dispute in progress. And another thing that we push DOL on is to abide by the terms of this memorandum and to work with the Immigration Service to make sure that that doesn't happen. I mean, the larger problem is that after the labor dispute is resolved, the worker may get removed from the country anyway because the employer has brought that worker to the attention of the Immigration Service, you know, as a sort of retaliation, which is also prohibited under federal law.
Post-Katrina, many of the Latino workers coming to New Orleans to help rebuild came to a workplace, an environment with little or no oversight on employers, on work conditions, especially on wages and safety. In short, they came to labor's Wild West, where employers did not need to be accountable. And indeed, they have not been accountable. Many of them have been brought here or lured here by the opportunity. In construction, in particular, has attracted many unscrupulous employers.
It's a march organized by the Congress of Day Laborers. I think the demands is respect the rights of immigrants, a right to return for all New Orleanians, the right to safety and prosperity for all. You know, it's a lot of people out. It's International Workers Day, May 1st. You know, try to bring attention to the plight of workers. Try to get respect for the poor people. You don't just think of the rich when they rebuild the city.
Well, I got a few people here just representing themselves and trying to get established and get equal rights. That's all. The same thing that we've been going through as black folk for a long time, they going through now as they get here. The same shit, man. They're just trying to get what's there.
respect. You know, New Orleans is ground zero for worker exploitation, but it's also ground zero for organizing for workers' rights and dignity. This is a city where contractors are robbing workers of wages, recruiters are bringing workers and subjecting them to human trafficking and forced labor. We're fighting today, marching to City Hall and asking Mayor Nagin for a meeting to address these issues.
Aquí enfrente tenemos a la queridísima migra.
Today is May Day.
Hoy es el 1 de mayo.
It is International Working People's Day. It is a day started in the United States of America that spread all over the world for unity.
Empezó en los Estados Unidos de América y se expandió a todo el mundo por la unidad.
We continue, even now,
Continuamos aún ahora
to be divided
a ser divididos
on color,
por el color,
language,
el lenguaje,
our culture.
cultura.
This must end.
Esto tiene que terminar.
When you come and you rebuild our city,
Cuando ustedes vienen a reconstruir nuestra ciudad
and black workers, they want to rebuild too.
y la gente morena también quiere reconstruir.
And those corporations and companies figure out how they can make more money by making us fight each other for who will work for less.
Y estas corporaciones y compañías se empiezan a aprovechar y ven quién puede trabajar por menos dinero.
So how much do you charge?
¿Cuánto cobras?
$15 an hour.
$15 la hora.
I will work for 10.
Pues yo voy a trabajar por 10.
I will work for 9.
Yo por 9.
I will work for food.
Yo voy a trabajar solo por la comida.
And we are re-enslaved again.
Y nos vuelven a hacer esclavos.
The beginning, though, is with the Daily Workers Congress. The beginning is with you who come together, talk about the problems, learn what the structures are, and begin to figure out how to fight this.
Pero el comienzo está aquí. El comienzo está con el Congreso de Jornaleros, con la gente sin hogar, que todas las semanas se están organizando, hablando de cómo podemos cambiar esta situación.
So on this Labor Day, I close with this principle of unity.
Entonces, este 1 de mayo cierro con este mensaje de unidad.
An injury to one
Una herida a uno
is an injury to all.
es una herida a todos.
An injury to one
Una herida a uno
is an injury to all.
es an injury to all.
An injury to one
An injury to all
is an injury to all.
is an injury to all.
An injury to one is an injury to all. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains and a world to win.